What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Bourbon Bullshit Podcast with some good friends, great drinks, and a little bit of BS. So grab a seat, pour up something neat, and welcome to the show. All right. So welcome into Bourbon B.S. I'm here today with a good friend, a throwback. Today felt like a great time to have her on because even if you've been friends with someone for years, they tend to try to duck you because they're scared of being on a microphone. So this took me literally waiting until she was drunk to agree and then put it in our calendar. That's a real fucking story.
Yeah, that's how that went down.
Yeah, she got drunk. She's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to be on your show. I was like, say less. You fucked up because you said yes.
It's the only way to get me to agree to most things. So you nailed it.
Well, today I'm here with a good friend from back in the day. If anyone has ever wanted the most embarrassing stories about me or who has known me the longest outside of people who are blood relatives, Tia Disa Limonta is a friend that has known me since I was 12, 13?
Yeah, 11, 12.
Holy shit. Yeah. So
yeah, 30 plus years.
So
or almost.
Main reason why we're still friends is because you know too much and I can't get rid of you because it would be a problem. But
I tried.
She tried. No, that didn't work out for you, did it? Tia, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here with you. You're right.
Sober you's okay with it? Sober you's okay with it now?
I'm okay with it. I've come to terms. I have a nice stiff drink to help me out. So
well, speaking of the drink, because Tia, I'm going to just call you Tia. People are going to be like, Tia, he's going to jump around. Screw you. This is my show. Do what I want. Since Tia is an educator, I felt that we wanted to make something themed around teachers. So I found a cocktail called the Teacher's Pet. Now, you would almost assume a teacher might want something nice because of kids, blah, blah, blah. You haven't spent much time around children, have you? So the Teacher's Pet feels a lot like a rift in between of a Manhattan and an Old Fashioned. This takes an ounce and a half of blended whiskey or just straight Kentucky whiskey to 2 ounces. We poured it 2 ounces because it's been that kind of week. A half an ounce of dry vermouth and a half an ounce of sweet vermouth. And you just spin that together in the glass. Pour 2 dashes of bitters as well. So I used Ango bitters. And you top that off with an orange slice and a cherry. Easy peasy, gonna get the job done. Tia, what do you think? You actually finally had it. I know your husband had it.
I finally tried it. Yeah. I finally tried it. It was pleasantly surprising. It's stiff. It's a strong drink, but it's smooth. I like it.
As an educator, I'm pretty sure you need more than just fucking.
I do. No, and it won't take much. It won't take very much. I'll be nice and loose by the end of it.
Oh, that's great, guys! Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode where Tia's all the way turned up. This is the best kind of episode. But yeah, man. So a little bit about you and like when people are listening, like, I kind of want to jump right into it because of how long we've known each other. Mm-hmm. Like I tell people all the time that I have friends that are low maintenance. You are the exact example I use every time.
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's one of my challenges with friendships. Everyone expects a little bit more and this is it. This is what I can give. When you need me, I'm 100% there. But otherwise, you won't hear from me very much. And I'll drop you a random text every so often, letting you know I love you. And then I disappear for months at a time.
Months is a short window for you sometimes. I think there have been times where it'd be 1 year and we'll just talk for like an hour. Hey, like I remember I called you one time when it was your birthday. I'm like, oh, happy birthday. We got on the phone. I'm exercising on a bike and we're talking for like an hour. I'm like, oh, that felt like we never stopped talking. Then I didn't hear from you again for a year. That was exactly the type of friendships I need, guys. For anyone at home who needs me to check in with you every 2 months, every like 2 days. No.
Easy peasy, guys. I mean, in the best way, I guess. But
it's good. Low maintenance friends are true friends. I think that it's a really cool, unique thing where you could just pick up with each other and it's like you never stopped hanging out. You could be in completely different phases in your life. Hey, like I am a born again Christian monk. I don't know what the fuck. And you wouldn't even judge. It's like, oh, yeah, cool. Where can you go to drink? Like, or what can you do?
Well, I love that, right? I love that. Even like our exchanges between our text messages or like the other day when you called me, there doesn't have to be this like long greeting or this extended. We jump right into it, right? And it just flows, and it's always been easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I love it's you, James, and a couple of those people from back in the day. Shouts to James Reyes. He's a big big contributor. But like, he's a like day one supporter. When I even talked about doing the podcast, he's like, "Did you start it? Yeah. What do you need from me? I don't know. If you want to sign up." He just sent me money. He just started, sent me money. He has sent me people's phone numbers. He's like, "Hey, I'm at this distillery. Do you want me to give them your phone number? Hey, I'm here with this dude, real big bourbon dude. Do you want me to give him your phone number?" I got a care package behind me from a dude James gave my phone number to on Tuesday.
I love it. I love James. James has always had such a good heart. He's been such a great friend. And he's another one where you don't see him in forever and it's easy to just pick up where you left off.
Bro, I hadn't even seen that dude in 12 years. Said, "Hey, I might be going to Colorado." Him and his wife opened the doors like, "Come on in. We'll drive you around all of Colorado. We'll take vacation time. We'll do all that." I'm like, "Oh, I fucking love you guys." Stephanie and him, amazing. But
I love it.
Yeah, that's a friendship that if you guys don't have that, get yourself a low maintenance friend. This one will always be there. You'd always pop up. Some emergency happens. She still wants to be invited to the wedding, even though she didn't invite me to hers. She still.
Oh my god! I'm getting so much crap for that. Guys, I had to make some cut.
Did you will do this later. But tell me. I'll let you tell like our origin story and friendship and like everything. Kind of just a brief history of like we got to know each other.
Well, you and I met each other in middle school. You came in. I had already been at the school for a year. You came in, I believe it was the 6th grade. There was like a handful of you guys that joined.
It's 4 of us at once.
We were an elite, gifted and talented school in Harlem. And it was a really tight community, right? So like you jumping in 6th grade was kind of off for you, I imagine, just because we had all clicked up, right? We were all had our circles and like you came in. And I don't remember if it was that year or the following year that you and I really clicked.
I think it was the following year. That first year, I didn't know any of you motherfuckers.
Yeah. So the following year, you and I really clicked. And then like we were just hanging out all the time. Like we were inseparable. And that went on until you left me and you abandoned all of us and moved to Massachusetts, never to be heard of again. That's my story.
That's your version of the story? That's your version of the story. To be clear, I got moved. I didn't have a choice. I got physically moved.
That's true.
But during that time for Mount Hall, there's James, me, you, Lucia, John DeSena, a bunch of people. Like there was just like
Eric.
Eric Cuello. Angela. That is one of the unique things. You know how people talk about, hey, I'm really cool with my high school friends. I'm not. I have like 3, maybe, and that's because I became roommates with one of their brothers. Outside of that, I'm cooler with the people from Mount Hall than I've ever been with anyone in high school. But those people, I just love.
Anytime I say that, everyone's kind of weirded out by like, what do you mean you still keep in contact with your middle school? It's like I couldn't name most people that I went to high school with, and I keep in contact with maybe one friend from high school. And really, it's the Mod Hallers that I think like you hear from me. Right, every once in a blue moon.
Yeah, but I don't need to hear from you often. Like, I'd rather not, actually.
Either a kid announcement, right? It's either birth announcement or...
Yeah, it's like randomly, it's just like, hey, I had another kid. Oh shit, for real? Just go back in my closet somewhere. But you talk to the people, and what did they say when you say this?
Like everyone's weirded out by me being so close to or being so connected to the people from middle school. And it's just like you said, right? We won't see each other for years at a time. And somehow when we come together, we fall right back in line and into our rhythm, and like the banter starts and we all make fun of our...
Yeah, that seems to be a common thread, guys. I'm cool with being the butt of the jokes, and I think that's why it helps. But Jesus, y'all have so much goddamn ammo.
We've gotten better. Everyone's gotten better. I think
To be fair, it goes back. I will admit, I'm not the victim here. I have made fun of Tia for a very long time in our lives.
Come on. Some of the nicknames are fucked up.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
We won't do it.
We're not going to do that. It's 2025, and some of those nicknames from back then are not PC. We named her after a Pokemon at some point.
You guys are such dicks. Bunch of jerks.
So I think that's why I just take it. I'm like, I remember making fun of her for way too long, having a Great Value windbreaker that you somehow try to survive winters with.
Oh my God, why was I wearing that?
I have no idea. Guys,
to be cold.
If you ever decide to send your child outside in a windbreaker that looks like it's made of like it was like, what? shopping bags from the local fucking pharmacy.
Windbreaker. It was a nice windbreaker. It just wasn't warm.
It was snowing, and this girl's like, I'm trying to look cute. Go put something on. Like, anything.
Apparently, I was developmentally on point because all of these kids, that's what they do. They're out here in hoodies in 20-degree weather. So I was just on trend.
Yeah, you were just ahead of your time. Yeah, that's what you were going to call it now? You're just going to say you're an innovator? Fuck it.
I created it.
You created it? Fuck it. But there's always, of anything, yeah, she fucks with me the most. I think especially as I got older, there's this, I'm going to say this is just funny because I'm going to get ahead of it. No one realizes until you really like get to know me that like how much of a nerd I used to be, how like awkward I was, all those things. So when Tia makes fun of me, I was like, she knows the most. Like she knew me in the early stages of that. So like, I need to stop. I need to relax. She has way too much ammo. Like,
no, but now your nerdiness is cool, right? Like now it's not even valid. All the nerdy shit that you guys are doing, right? It was totally cool. I mean, now it is. Back then, it was like you were dragging me along to some really geeky shit. But I remember being clueless. Like, hey, you want to go downtown? And I was like, sure, I'll tag along. And then we'd end up at a Magic the Gathering tournament, right in the middle of nowhere. So, but to be fair, this is all cool stuff now. So you were ahead of the trend, my friend.
Oh my God. I don't want to linger on that, but I am happy and pissed that the stuff I got made fun of is now like, oh, you can be a nerd all day. It's fine. Just fucking love Marvel. Just love Magic the Gathering. Henry Cavill's making PCs and girls are fucking, this is a thirst trap. What the fuck? Where was this? Where was this 20 years ago? Like, fuck you guys.
No kidding.
Like, if you told me, like, I remember when I was like 25, very confident, all this, and I still play D&D. And I remember a girl I was talking to, she's like, you're hunching Dungeons and Dragons? Like, that's so not sexy. I'm like, I don't really care. She's like, what? I'm like, I don't really care.
You're cut off.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really care. Look, at this point, I'm just comfortable with being a nerd. I'm not just going to I don't care. Nowadays, you meet fucking tens and everyone's like, all these gorgeous human beings are just like, we all play Dungeons and Dragons. Now they sold out arenas to watch a group of Dimension 20 play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, I know. I bought Roman tickets over Christmas to watch like this 20-sided tavern show in New York. It was, and he says it was like mind blowing. It was awesome.
It's insane. But back in the day, we were like, oh, fucking nerds. And, I mean, half those motherfuckers, never left the block, so fuck them. But like, they still have like a junior high school education. I'm not that balanced, right? Enough of shitting on people who hated nerds.
Yes.
So yeah, there was a lot of times in New York, like I have a lot of those great memories and fucking around and hanging out with you. But you're right, I did leave New York at some point. And that around that time, things changed. But I remember when we got older, you told, I don't think you were in education yet, right? You were trying to, I think, go into like medical something health field for some time. Tell me about that.
I don't know. I don't think so.
So what were you, what took you into this?
Nothing.
You just decided one day to teach?
No. At first, like early on, I didn't know what I wanted. I think I had my head really embedded into my ass. It's deeply embedded, and
is that out now?
I didn't know what I wanted to. It's out. It's free. I didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time, or like I had gone back and forth with certain things. Education is one of those things that always came up. But funny enough, for me, the first time that I remember going, this could be a thing, was, as you remember, in Mod Hall, actually, we had to go out and do community service. We had to go and serve like local businesses and hospitals and whatever. So I was placed at a Head Start center in Washington Heights. And I remember it was awesome. I remember being in a classroom with 3-year-olds, and I didn't know anything, right? I was a kid. And there was this one little boy who was kind of that liar. Everybody else was kind of playing together, and he was just always by himself. And now I used to go week after week, and this little boy was non-responsive. He wouldn't talk to anyone. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't play with anyone. Like the teachers had kind of just like, let him do his thing on the side. Nobody bothers him. He doesn't bother. And there was something about that that didn't sit right with me, even at that age. And I remember just sitting with the kid, right? And I wasn't trying to force him into talking or playing or doing anything. I just sat with him. And eventually, like after a couple of weeks of me doing that, he would call me over to play. He started interacting with me. And it was nice that I can see that the child was on the spectrum. Um, the teachers probably didn't know what to do with him or how to handle him or how to serve him, right, and his needs. And there was something that clicked for me at that moment. Like, I, why was I successful in like engaging with this kid, but these adults weren't? Mm. So that was like the first time that I was really like, huh, maybe there's something here. Maybe I'm good at this. Maybe I could be good at this.
That's really fucking awesome. Did you follow?
I
Like,
remember this child's name. Like I even Christopher. I'll never forget it. It was such a moment for me.
did you stay in contact with the child after? Or
No, no. Because once we finished serving, that was it. But I remember like there were a couple of weeks that like finally like I got through to him and he was talking to me and not like conversational, but just communicating what he wanted or what he needed.
That's
And
awesome.
it was amazing.
That's awesome. I did not know that that's what it like led you down that path.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I avoid children like the plague.
I know you always do.
I always have. Even when we were
You
younger,
always
I'm
have.
like, I don't know what you're talking to me for.
Mhm.
I'm good. Like my nieces and nephews, I'm good with them. I love them. I will be the coolest uncle, and I will spoil them rotten, which is a problem financially. Because my niece will probably walk in one day, and is like, I need a pony. It's like, well, I'm selling my car. Okay. I can't afford a
As
pony.
it should be.
Like, I can't afford a pony otherwise. Shit, Matilda's gonna hear this. So you decided then, like, this is kind of the industry, not the field, but the industry, or is that just something you go back to when you think about what got you into it?
No, that's always what I go back to. Between that and then a few years later at Alianza, I was an after school tutor for a while. And there I was tutoring kids, but like 2 years younger than I was. I was 16 and these kids were eighth graders, right? So I really had no business being in the classroom with them. But it was a fun experience. I enjoyed being in that role. And then when I had Jaden, when I got pregnant with my son and I had Jaden, something clicked and I was like, I need to get my shit together. and and then
There's another
I
life that depends
revisited
on
like
me. Like,
right, I'm responsible now for another person. Um and it was the best decision. Like that's kind of what inspired me to go back to school and pursue this thing that I was already interested in, right? Like I knew that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in the classroom. I had a little bit of practice with it and I wanted to kind of fine tune that and just have something stable for myself and for him.
all right. And that's obviously started in the city and, you kind of moved through. What level class did you start with? Was it like, how did that look like? Because I've really never known like what that looks like.
Like teaching in New York?
Yeah. Like, does that
Like
go? Do you become a kindergarten teacher? Do you jump to a specific grade? Like, what was the look?
No, you choose what area you want to specialize in. And early on, I thought that was the other thing, right? I thought I had this connection with this little boy, Christopher. He was 3 years old. So I was like, I need to work with the little ones, right? I need to work with anyone below 3 years old. And I did that for several years, but there was little room for growth. And again, I felt stuck. So I was like, no, I want to go to a public school and just expand, right? Like I just want to grow. Um, and then you choose. You kind of choose what you want to specialize in. So I started off with the little ones, and then I went off to get certified through sixth grade, so I can teach through sixth grade. And then it depends on what's available. But I know that I don't want to do anything
Mm-hmm.
past like second grade.
That's when we become dicks. That's when
A little bit.
a little bit. That's a lot of it.
They can be dicks at 5 years old too. But
I mean, children can be dicks in all stages of life. That's fair. I think like they're also
they're all little assholes.
yeah, they're really mean. Children are really mean. You can say whatever the fuck you want. This show's called Bourbon and Bullshit.
No, I mean for the sake of my job.
Oh, that's fair. Whatever, it's fine. If someone if you're at your school was like, we heard this podcast that we listen to regularly.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And we heard you call children an asshole.
To be fair, it's factually accurate. So you did that in New York for a while. And then you moved through those ranks, but at some point it became very different. And I always hate going back to it because it's 2025. We don't always want to go back to it. But during that time, like obviously the pandemic happened, right? And that in a major city, what was that like?
So the pandemic hit during my first year teaching in public school. So prior to that, I had been in private school, which is a totally different monster. I had been working with younger kids. I had been in school for a while. So I had left the classroom and I was home. And literally, I had just jumped back into the classroom after 4 years of being a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was terrified already, like to go back to work.
You anxious and terrified?
Right? Who'd have thought? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who'd have thought? But and then 6 months in, not even, everything shuts down. And I'm working at this place that was not a traditional school. Mm-hmm. It's like one of the oldest progressive schools, public progressive schools in New York. So everything's very hands-on. The kids work very collaboratively. They don't know how to work the way that was required to work during the pandemic. They don't know how to be 5 feet apart or whatever. They don't know how to do this aside from the fact that they were 3 and 4 years old. They were 4 years old. I was teaching pre-K at the time. So that was a huge challenge. Just navigating what that looked like. Teaching online, maybe that's why I didn't want to get on a Zoom. Maybe that's why I didn't want to do this. Because teaching online was the worst thing ever, especially with 4-year-olds. The amount of asses that I saw, children and parents.
What?
Because no one's stressed, because no one, like everybody's walking around in the background, just coming out of showers. There's other siblings, there's kids just like left alone with a device and expected to learn online. Like it was just total chaos and madness. And navigating through all that shit was miserable. And there was like no rule, right? There's no manual for this. It was just like, well, get on a computer. Good luck.
Figure it the fuck out. So, okay, the amount of asses you saw, you can't just fucking slide by that. How the fuck did that, like, is that something that you had to, hey, Mr. Stevenson, I just want to let you know. Your whole,
yes.
Your butt cheeks were all the way
like
out.
A mass email. You sent out an email like, hi, just as a reminder, please make sure that everyone's fully dressed while the cameras are on. The fact that I had to say that to adults and children. Yeah, I don't miss that at all. There were some people who thrived on, right? Like working online and doing the teaching online. Jaden, my oldest, he did school online for a year and a half. He was all virtual for a year and a half. Mm. It went well for him. Riley, on the other hand, my middle one, she was in pre-K and kindergarten during that time. And it was miserable. Like we lost time with her academically in her development. We lost time.
Do you feel like it was like detrimental to an extent? Or like, what do you mean when you say you lost time? Like, do you feel like she was behind when it came back into like a normal standard setting?
100%. 100%. And just socially, she's such a social kid that she really required that interaction. And I mean, kids in general, right? They're, for the most part, they're really social. They need that, just that those peer interactions to develop. And we saw a lot of that, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fears at home. And then, of course, when I jumped back into the classroom, at that point, I was still in New York. At that point, we had already purchased a house in Maryland. So I was going back and forth.
That was wild when you told me about that. I'm like, where are you staying at? You're like, technically, what the fuck do you mean? Yeah.
Oh my God. The way that shit went down was also just as wild.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there in a second. But your middle one gets into school and regular school, and did she adapt well? You're saying she didn't, or?
The social part, yeah, she fell right back in for the most part. But academically, we saw where things were missing. You would think, right? Like, I'm a teacher. What do you mean? It's different. At home, it's totally different. And there were a lot of holes. And we're still playing catch up in some areas there. And she's in 4th grade now, right? She's 9 years old. It was tough.
That's tough.
It's been tough.
I also do know that like the New York school systems are really next level compared to like other states. And someone's gonna be like, oh, well, this damn Yankee. No, relax. I'm not shitting on any other state. New York is designed in a way to like you're going to get the fastest, highest level of education early as on as possible to set you up for success later.
So there's been a shift. There's been a shift in that, and not just in New York. I agree with you, and I think that was probably one of the more difficult parts about coming to Maryland and teaching here. Mm-hmm. It's not that. I think post-pandemic, especially, the bar has kind of dropped.
Oh, fuck
standard. No. Yeah, the standard is kind of, you expect more.
Mm-hmm.
But the standard is it's dropped. Like a lot of the stuff seems watered. Shut the fuck up. A lot of the stuff seems watered down. It feels like a lot of fuss to teach. I guess that was it. Like a lot of fuss to just teach kids. Like think about when you and I went to school. Some things just it's just the way we did things, right? And they've complicated things, right? There's so much red tape to go through, and there's so many like experts who've never been in a classroom and are kind of dictating what you do and how it should be taught. And it's like every group of kids that lands in your classroom is different.
Yeah.
There's no formula. There's no cookie cutter, right? Like formula for how to teach. But I think we've overcomplicated things in the education field for kids. I think it's not rigorous enough in certain areas, and I think we're kind of like lowering the standard. And yeah, so I have big feelings.
to not put homies on the spot, I have friends that will not be named who have constantly told me about now there's added pressure to pass students who they wouldn't have passed otherwise.
Oh yeah.
There's constant pressures to adjust rubrics that will assist with home ideals as opposed to facts.
Right. And I think that's been my biggest challenge now, right? Like this year, and being in a different education system right now here in Maryland. That's been, I just tagged my sister in to teach my kids social studies. Like she's homeschooled her kids, and I was like, they're not going to get anything of substance from what's happening on the curriculum. And I know that fact, right? Because I can see the curriculum, and I know that they're not.
Yeah. And I'm not putting you in a predicament because I'll say it because I'm an educator. But, just kind of almost rewriting history to an extent, or just omitting certain events.
We're glossing over some of these really important historical facts. Like we're just kind of like, hey, and by the way, this sort of what happened. And it was like one lesson. I taught one lesson.
Hey, let's talk about the Trail of Tears for 13 seconds. It happened. And wait, what was it? Don't worry about it. Well, let's get back into why Thomas Edison's great.
Seriously, yeah. So it feels there's a lot of that happening, and I don't know so much about in New York right now, just because the school that I was working in New York was on the opposite end of that. They wanted to have the heaviest conversation with the student, like we are going to unpack all of this shit, and I appreciated that about that place. Like my grandmother passed away within the first 2 weeks that I was working there, and I had to sit these kids down, read them a book about death, then have a conversation about my feelings. And like, can you guys relate? Has anyone here suffered a loss? And so we were really digging into some deep shit.
A very flip side, and I kind of like that.
I liked it. I mean, there was other things wrong with the place, but I did like that part of it. And I do. I kind of adopted.
You kind of adopted it, like in how you communicate.
In how I teach my own children at home and in my classroom. Right? Like certain things, it's like we're just gonna talk about it. If I'm having a bad day, going to tell you I'm having a bad day, and I may not get into the nitty gritty as to why. I'll give you a reason. I'll explain why. And I think that helps with like forming those relationships with the kids. Why would you trust me if I'm, like if I'm guarded in the classroom, even with 5-year-olds, right? And 5-year-olds love fucking everybody.
Yeah, but they also pick up on vibes. Like, right. That's just an instinct. Unless you're brought up in a household where like you're just fucking ignorant to everything going around you, just running into shit. But in every experience, part of the reason why this makes me laugh, as much as I don't want children like me, and I'm always like, why do you like me? He's like, I just like you, Uncle Arthur. That's so weird. And it tends to be like kids could pick up on who's like a decent human being, someone who they can pick up on energy, like this. I'll equate it to dogs. Sorry.
I wholeheartedly believe. No. I'm not offended by that. Yeah. I agree. And I've said those same words. I agree 100%.
Especially until they get older. When they're younger, they just kind of pick up on the energy and vibes. Like people forget, especially when you get older, like repressed memories and all the things that means your kid was always paying attention. They knew something was off.
Yeah.
You might be like, oh, we didn't say those words. No, they fucking knew. Like
whenever my kids have rejected someone or been really adamant about like keeping someone away, I've always respected that and listened to it, no matter how young they were. Like just certain people holding your kid, and if your kid reacts the same way every single time,
that's not
something's off.
They're no longer holding my kid.
Something's fine. They don't, right? Like they don't vibe, or I don't know. I listen to that.
Like I remember, even my niece. Like my niece loves me. She'll text me, she'll call me, like just happy birthday, send messages, all that. But there are times, and like, oh hey Matilda, and she'll act shy. I was like, that's fine. I have no beef with it. Don't press it. But I've always disliked when parents are like, go hug them. They're your uncle. I don't know. No, I don't want to. When I want to, I will.
Boundaries, consent.
Yeah. Yeah. So my cousins or my mom will be like, oh, hug your uncle. It's like, nah, bro, she don't want to hug me. She don't got to do anything. Like she'll later at some point come to me for candy or some shit. It's fine. Like when she's ready, she's ready. Like that's who she is. I'm not going to fucking force that shit. I've always hated that when I was younger. They're like, oh, don't you remember your aunt? She held you once when you were 6. Why the fuck would I remember that or care? I don't have a relationship.
What is that? Why do they do that?
Fucking old school Hispanic parents too. It's always old school Hispanic parents. Like, don't you remember your godmother when you were? No,
I don't.
Do you know when godmother gets assigned? When I can't remember shit. Don't know that lady. Not my fault. You're no longer friends. But I think it's cool that you actually find a way to navigate those conversations and put children in a space where they could have emotional intelligence and be able to kind of unpack that early on and they turn into well-functioning adults. That's the hope.
That's the idea.
Hashtag not an expert.
To advocate for themselves and to even set those boundaries, right? With their adults, with me, like I have a big, I'm really big on like, just set your boundaries and we're going to respect each other's boundaries. So a hug, you can't just run up on me and give me a hug. I'm not going to run up on you and give you a hug. You have to ask me. This is my body. You got to ask me for a hug, even at 5 years old, right? Like, and that's something that they're not used to anyone kind of saying to them. And I'm big about that in the classroom. My kids, right? Like my oldest two, when Jaden starts tickling the other one and she goes, stop. I'm like, the first time you stop, she needs to understand that when she says stop, the expectation is it's done, game over. And he needs to also know when he hears stop, even if it's a game, hands come off, right? So it's a big thing that I picked up early on in teaching and has kind of stayed with me at home and in the classroom.
I think that's important. I think communication is important even when as a functioning adult, right? Like understanding so that once again, hashtag not a sponsor. Someone's going to be here like, you're not a dad. I know that. Relax. You're probably a terrible dad anyway. I think even as an adult, understanding that communicating has to be clear, concise, but also respected and received. If that person across from me isn't receiving it, there's a limit. Everything is different. There's someone that you could be communicating to someone who's just not ready to understand that message. There's never been a situation where can someone communicate that well.
Right.
I think that's established way early on. When yeah.
That's not something you teach at 20, 25, right? Yeah. Like you have to start from the very beginning to start teaching these boundaries and consent and how to communicate effectively.
Yeah. You could work on it. There's certain levels. I think every day you have to be better than you were yesterday. That's my personal goal. And that comes with accepting when you fuck up. It's not a comfortable state of mind.
Yes.
People are very comfortable saying, nah, the other person is the problem. Motherfucker, there's only two. Like, there's a lot of times that you might be the problem. How you approach a conversation, how you communicated a feeling and expectation, that could be part of the problem. And it's important for children to feel like they can work on that early on.
Yeah.
I will equate it to sports. You know who's a fantastic athlete? The motherfuckers who worked on it since they were kids.
Yeah.
So if we have a skill we want to develop, why wait until you're 18 and you're comfortable with your kid dealing with death, Trail of Tears, and all the things you're trying to hold back from them, and then suddenly fucking shock their system?
I agree. That's a good. I never thought of. I like that analogy with the sports. Yeah, you're right.
Imagine, okay, I've never worked out in my life, and then at 16, I decide I want to be a football player. I am behind the 8 ball from everyone else. Okay, I have to work 3 times as hard. I'm good, more prone to injury. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to catch up. I might end up rejecting and never being good at this because I'm so frustrated that I'm far behind. So I'm going to shut down communication in this example. I'm going to shut down how I deal with people. I'm going to not adjust. Everyone else is the problem. It's not me. And then you might also succumb to making excuses like, well, I've always had this. God damn it.
You get defensive. You don't own it. There's no accountability. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of psychological things that go on. But for those who are uncomfortable with that conversation, I equate it to sports. Marshawn Lynch did not become a great future Hall of Fame running back because they started at 16. If he did, hey, I'm not saying it's impossible to work on something. It's just
less likely, yeah. You're less likely to build that.
You're dealing with a negative balance, boo-boo. Like, I'm sorry. You can't come into this conversation being like 17 steps ahead and it's like wondering why everyone's ahead. They started you right there. We're going to take a quick break because it seems like my glass is empty and Tia's is as well. So
this is growing on me.
You like it?
Yeah, it's growing on me. It started a little harsh, but
I told you. You got to trust me, man. All right, guys, we'll be right back. Hey guys, while you're listening to the show, we know that you might want to partake in some drinks with us and enjoy the libations. Here at Bourbon Bullshit, we ask that you drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive, avoid Amazon one-click buy, and for the love of God, do not text your ex. You do not need that kind of closure. They've moved on, so should you, Joseph. You should stop Facebook stalking. She knows. She knows. Now, all jokes aside, don't do anything dumb, take care of yourselves, and be safe. Thanks, guys. Now back to the show. All right, guys, we are back. We took a quick break and Tia's bartender was behind, so it took a little bit longer. Roman, do better, okay?
Do better. Do better.
Do better, Roman. All jokes. Roman already hates me because I keep fucking him up in fantasy football. Listen.
I hear about it. So this week I'm playing Arthur.
Are you serious? Jesse told me about the time that they met. And the first thing he brings up is like, Arthur, this motherfucker.
That sounds right. Yeah, no, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think I surprised a lot of our people in our league because I suddenly just became really good at it. It was because it finally became one of my small, like I had less and less leagues. So I got to pay attention to it. I had like 10 leagues at some point.
But even when you had a bunch of leagues, you were kind of kicking ass because I would hear about it a lot.
Yeah.
During football season. Yeah, Arthur's kind of fucking everybody up.
It was so much fucking fun because I would do this every week. I would share a gift from the show, the movie The Craft, about witchcraft. Saying, I'm praying my team destroys all of you. Like saging shit.
I love it. Like, I hear a lot about fantasy football during football season.
Yeah, so does my fiance. This year was the first time she didn't really hear too much about it, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you just weren't really into it." Like, no, you're in school. She's in school for radiology. Like, I'm just in a corner somewhere, minding my business, trying not to frustrate you because I love her so much, but her during this time, she's easily like, meh, and just frustrated. I was like, just go to corner.
I get it.
Here's some chocolate.
I get it. And I can't even imagine radiology school. Like, I can't even imagine. But going to school and having to maintain a relationship, a household, and just do anything adult in any which way or form is shitty. Like, this is why kids, you should go to school
early
when you're in your teens and 20s.
If you want to do something that requires an education, like a formal education, do it young.
Yeah. Do it early. Before kids, before a significant other, before you have real responsibilities. Jump in.
Yeah. If you want to go into trade school, do that shit early. If you want to do anything, do it early because
it's just so much harder. It's so much harder. And it's one obstacle after the other, and it's just, yeah.
And there's a little bit of, and I'm going to say this as just like not even the responsible thing, right? When you're older, you can't have as much fun. When you're younger, you could make some mistakes and do some stupid shit and your body recovers faster and you have those life experiences and you're less likely to randomly cheat on your significant other because you were a whore early on. I'm going to say that because it's kind of true.
What?
Yeah.
How'd you go there?
Because I'm going to tell you why. I've heard stories about people like, oh, my high school sweetheart, I've been with them since I was like, yeah. And then suddenly he's like, yeah, you find out she has had an affair. He's had an affair, like all this stuff. It's like, I never got to be young. Be young, dummy. Be young. Do the life experiences.
I'm sorry to all high school sweethearts that are still together. I don't believe in that shit.
No, I don't either.
I don't believe in that shit. I think that you need time to grow apart. I think maybe you guys find each other in the future, but if you met in high school and you were together since high school, there's a lot of growing that needs to happen, or that does happen just organically. It happens, and you're not always aligned. Anyway, whatever.
Hey, to each their own. If that's what works for you, the school just don't look through each other's phones. God, I'm gonna say one last mean joke. It's just I hope no one each their own. But anytime I see a couple join Facebooks, one of them cheated.
Oh, like when they have a
joint Facebook
account?
When it went from not joint to suddenly joint, I'm like,
who was it? I just want to know who it was. I just want to know the backstory.
Who had a hidden DM? Like,
let us in. Let us in. That's it. We're invested.
Yeah, I'm not trying to I'm here with popcorn. I'm invested. It's the same as reality shows. I just want to know what happened. Jacob, talk to me about it.
Who was it?
Yeah, which one got fucked up? Someone's going to listen to this and be like, Arthur's a piece of shit. I'm not the one changing my Facebooks. Like, stop it. Shit. But enough of that. I want to talk about, the elephant in the room is like, why didn't I get invited to your wedding, bro? I'm just... No, because we're going to go. I want to be funny about it because, hey, tell us about how you met Roman.
No. Okay. So, we just both happened to be out. We're
lying now. We're lying now.
He saw me from across the room.
We're lying.
It was obviously love at first sight.
Okay.
We lived happily ever after.
Now let me go look at where's someone's a liar button. Hold on. Go on. Keep
I hope you don't have a liar button.
I might have a liar button. You'd be funny. Hold on. Oh wait.
That's pretty good.
So
no, okay. All right. The real story is you had come into town.
Mm-hmm.
You were visiting New York for a weekend. I had been on like a drinking binge for almost 2 weeks, out almost every night. I don't know how I managed this. And on the one night that I decided to stay in, Arthur messages me and he's like, well, I'm only here this weekend. You have to come out. Everybody's coming out. We're going to meet at this bar that everybody was going to. Like, it was our regular bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm staying home tonight. I'm not coming in. And he guilted me, of course. And I went out. And on said night,
one of my other friends was invited out. Who is that friend?
One of your. It was my current husband. It was my roomie. He was out, and I remember that towards the end of the night, after intense flirting with Roman, I approached you and I was like, "Hey, who's he?" And you said something to the effect of, "Off limits, don't do it." And that was just like an invitation. We're not gonna do it.
Yeah, but it wasn't because I didn't like him. I just want to be clear. It wasn't.
No, you thought he was great. He was just unavailable or something. Whatever.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I liked Roman. I have always liked Roman. I just want to be clear. It wasn't off limits. Like he's a bad person. I think the world.
There
of
was
Roman.
some technicality. He wasn't available or something. Blah blah. Clearly, I don't need a second. I've arrived.
All I'm saying is I didn't talk shit about Roman. I just want to be clear.
No. You said he's great. He's been a longtime friend, but no, Tia, no,
unavailable. And then I left back home.
Yeah.
And that's when random stuff started happening.
What do you mean?
No.
That same night, Roman and I exchanged numbers, and like we were inseparable ever since. He's my best friend. I'll give you credit. I hate to do it, but I'll give you credit.
Do it again. Wait, what was it that you're giving me?
Credit.
All right. For those of you who don't know, I am pretty undefeated in matchmaking somehow.
How many? What's your record now? Where are you sitting?
I've made 4 relationships happen. 2 of them Mahal related.
I want to hear more about that.
On a later time, that's not recorded.
Yeah. We'll put it on. We'll put a pin in that.
2 of them are Mahal related. You know of Jesse and Nydia. So
yeah.
That was a funny one because it happened to be because of dinosaur suits.
Confusion.
What? You're confused?
What do you mean?
All right. So at some point, Nydia, which I praise her for this because I think it's a really big move to say, hey, look, I am committed to trying to find someone. And I know a friend who is a nerd and kind of like, I want to ask him if he knows anyone because I would like to have someone I could trust help me find someone I can trust because dating scenes are tough, right? Which I have a whole
That's
thing.
what I hear.
Which I have a whole thing on.
What's going on out there?
I don't fucking know.
Theory? You have a theory?
I have a theory, but that's for a different day. Like about dating scenes. Well, a little bit about because there's an instant gratification about dating, swiping. You're always going to have a constant like dopamine hit. And people really love the early stages. And we talk about the lustrous stages of relationships because it's the same thing as like everything early on is great. So if all I have to do is swipe right or left and decide that I'm going to have that great feeling over and over and over and over and over and get the highest amount of hits of like dopamine, it's like a drug.
Yeah.
If I can constantly have the something else, there's someone else, there's something else fun.
That's so interesting.
You could chase
you know what?
But you could chase it.
It tracks.
It's like doom scrolling, but for, sex. Like if you do it right, it's kind of true. You can do the early stages of a relationship and really just be on your best behavior for the first 3 months. And then, hey, look, we really had fun, but I got to go on and go have fun again because there's always someone out, especially in big cities.
Right.
If you're single and you're just chasing that high, like there's not a lot of incentive to like,
I'm so glad I avoided that whole, like I missed that whole like swiping stage, the whole apps, because it sounds fucked. Like I'm hearing a lot of single friends talk about it, and it sounds fucked.
We'll get there. But so Nydia hits me up and she's like, hey, do you have any nerdy friends? And blah, blah, blah. And I didn't, Mott Hall people were cool, but I don't keep track of who you are as a human being, right?
Right.
And at that time, I was on this, I had a couple buddies that were on their fitness journeys. One, he's a marathon runner who can't lift weights because he just runs from his problems his whole life. John, he's a big listener. I love him. So he knows that this joke is just jokes. But he's always been an endurance athlete. He wants to start lifting weights. I am the weight lifter, big, strong dude for no good reason. Like I just want to be able to move a car if I needed to. I don't know. What the fuck? What if my fiance suddenly puts on 100 pounds? I need to still be able to toss her around. So benching as much as I can and squatting as much as I can is a life choice. Fuck you. So he hits me up. And then a buddy of mine, Jesse, he's like, hey, look, I'm trying to, self-development, growth, lose weight, focus on my future. He's had some health concerns, blah, blah. So Nydia is hitting me up and he's like, oh, do you have any nerdy friends, blah, blah. And I was like, I gotta dig into who Nydia is, right? I gotta go look before I start setting her up with some people that I like. Because I don't know if she's fucking out there being Dexter from that show. Just murking motherfuckers.
Like, the sweetest.
But you get what I'm saying. Like,
I love Nydia.
I need to do the research. I ain't just out there just trusting, like, because all I know is like fucking every.
You want to make sure that they're compatible. Also,
but every ex you had died. How? I have questions. How do they just all randomly die while you're on vacation? Where are you going? So whatever. So I look at her page, and on her page, she has this image of her in an inflatable dinosaur suit while she's at a Comic-Con.
That sounds right. That's
at that time, Jesse is driving around with 2 inflatable dinosaur suits. And every time I've asked Jesse why you have that, you never know. The fuck?
Were they inflated in the car? Like
they had a pump there, an electronic pump with batteries, so he could just inflate them, like in a heat of a moment. Like he could just be in like it turns into like
on the fly. I need a dinosaur.
Yeah, fucking breaking case of emergency dinosaur suit. Let's fucking go. Which actually helped that one of my nieces, her birthday party was a Jurassic Park theme. He's like, I have the suits in the car. If someone else wants to get in, I was like, I'll get in one right now. Let's go. There's a video.
Amazing. It's amazing.
And Jesse's a massive nerd, so I'm looking at this picture of this girl in a fucking dinosaur suit. I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way in hell. Long story short, I connect them, and Jesse's on this whole, well, I don't know. She's not as super responsive as I think. Blah, blah. I'm like, you're also really soft, Jesse. I love you. You're really like, hey, you're not used to like people being distant. She's very independent. Like I'm traveling by myself. I'm doing this stuff for myself. Blah, blah, blah. She also doesn't know you. When she's in town, connect, but you're fine. Jesse's listening to this. You're fine. You know I said these things to your face. Don't be surprised now.
Trust the process, Jesse. Trust the process.
Trust the process. Hang out with her. He's like, oh, do you want to go to the music festival? I was like, no, motherfucker. I don't want to be a third wheel to pay $200. No, I'm not going to. Are you paying for it? No, I'm not going. Whatever. Long story short, they end up meeting. They're engaged. He moved across the fucking country for her, and they're happily ever after traveling to places I've never even thought about going to. So Jesse went from a dude that never really left Florida to now fucking going all around the world. with with this woman and living in the biggest city possible when he went from Florida boy to this. So, yeah, you're welcome, Tia and Nydia and Jesse.
I appreciate you.
And Roman, who keeps avoiding me.
You introduced us. You didn't introduce us.
I didn't introduce you. I didn't introduce you.
I won't say that was an introduction. So no shit. Listen, Steven, our friend Steven.
Did I not introduce you that day?
I wouldn't say he was just there.
Stop trying to pull. Why do you just don't want to give me credit for it? Because I'm undefeated right now.
All right. I'll give it to you. You got it.
Steven pushed it, didn't he?
No, he didn't. Steven didn't push it. I remember Steven mentioning him, and I was like, "Who?" Like I didn't know who Roman was. I didn't. At first, initially, the first interaction was me outside. At the time, I was a smoker. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
And I was outside. I bummed a cigarette off of Roman, who was standing outside with Steven. Roman leaves. Steven goes, "Yeah, Roman, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Who?" He was like, "The guy you just got a cigarette from." I was like, "Never heard of him. I don't know who that is." Mm-hmm. And then later in the night, I definitely spotted him.
But I wasn't invited to the wedding. So listen.
No. Can I explain that?
Go on.
Okay.
I don't think you were ready to explain it.
The silence was killing me.
It was during a pandemic too. I know.
It was during the pandemic. We had originally planned this ginormous event. We had 170 people on the list. And then the pandemic hits, shuts everything down, and we have to find a new date. We find a new date. We had to cancel that date. Found a new date. And it was up in the air because it was either going to be at the bar that we met at that night or, for a split second. Like, I'm talking about a month before my wedding. We were still, like, grappling whether we're going to stick with our original venue or do Jake's. But Jake's was capping us at 30 people, and I was like, I'm never going to get away with it. The venue was capping us at 50. And I had to make some tough decisions. And you were out of state, and I felt really guilty about asking you to fly. I know that was a thing for you at the time too.
Oh, I hate flying.
And then I didn't want to.
I'm high as a kite every flight, but I don't care. I was gone.
So then I had regrets. I did have regrets. I remember saying it to Roman, like I should have given you the opportunity to say no. But I didn't want to put pressure on you to fly into the city. I didn't want to put you at risk for getting sick. Like for a week after our wedding, I was just like, please don't let anybody, let everybody be safe. I hope no one got sick. And that's how that happened. And I'm sorry. And I love you. And don't worry about it. The renewal is going to be lit. It's going to be.
Oh, everybody. Good. Oh, good. You're getting me bottles from Texas. That's a first step in making amends. It's first step.
All right. I appreciate that. I will buy my way back into your heart.
I can be bought. I can be bought. For all you motherfuckers out there, it's like, I can't be bought. You haven't found the right price tag.
You have a price.
You have a price. Everyone has a price. Shut up. No, there's no hard feelings. I completely understood. It's a big city. It's all those things going on at once. And that was one of the things that my fiance feared. She's like, are you going to be safe? I'm like, I'm going to spray people in the face with Lysol. I got it. Let's go. Yeah, but no, you had to make the decisions. And anyone who's ever planned a wedding, I don't take it personally. Like, it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't help Roman's case when I say that he hates me. It doesn't help his case when he's like, no. Beat you once or twice in fantasy football and you fucking uninvite me. That seems,
that's it.
That seems
done. He's
really
dead to
petty.
me. Can't come.
Can't beat him in one playoff and he's just like, me. Listen, uninvite that motherfucker. No, yeah, I'm not, no hard feelings, and I get it. You have to make those cuts. I know even my friend Amanda, she recently was married. I was her, I guess, man of honor.
Okay, that's fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was really, really weird because you have to really reaffirm to everyone in the audience that you're not the gay best friend and you're not related. So it's just like, hey, random dude in the wedding party. That's my female fiance. Not that I have a problem. I don't care what you judge me on, but people are like making a lot of stories.
All right.
And I'm like, hey, so why are you cool with her? What's the question? What do you want to ask me? Like, just ask the question. I don't got time.
Get to it.
But she told me that afterwards, like, she ended up spending like $35K type of shit. And I'm like, what? Like,
it's brutal.
Per plate price, all that stuff. Like, no, man. And picking venues that could house all those people and understanding that, hey, you have to kind of cut this down to people who won't mind not being invited. Right. Or people that 100%, like, you got to have your family. You got to have the core group of friends that are right in the city. You got to have so no hard feelings. unless you don't give me those bottles. Then the hard feelings are all the way back up.
Then we're back.
I'm trashing shit with the moment I go to New York.
No, it was really hard. It was really hard. I struggled with that. There were people who chose not to go that we really wanted there, and they chose not to go for their own safety. So it was really tough. But
I could have left that out because that meant that there was an empty seat. I was just, I'm gonna make it awkward.
No,
now.
we just grabbed people off the street at that point.
We're gonna make it awkward now.
Them
It's fine. Let's bask in this moment where I still didn't even get the empty seat.
It was a full house. Everybody came.
This is some bullshit.
People were standing in the background. We didn't have enough chairs.
Yeah, that's the picture. You guys heard this. All good. So, but with that life, pandemic life, getting married, having a house in fucking Maryland, which was out of nowhere, but I'm assuming you have people there. Tell us about why you ended up in a fucking small city before we jump into what, all the teaching and all the stuff.
Yeah, pandemic.
Pandemic was just like, fuck it.
It pushed us out. So we had considered moving to this part of Maryland for several years. My sister lives nearby. Mm-hmm. My brother was stationed here at the time. And every time we came we used to come visit about every 6 months or so. Every time we came visit, we would go to an open house. We'd go check out like a model home. So we became familiar with parts of the town that we're in or the city that we're in. We got familiar with like the builders and like their style of houses. So for years we'd been looking at it and going like, okay, not yet. But we'd been preparing to make purchase. And then the pandemic hit. And I go right to final destination, right? I have no in between. I'm like totally chill. And then I go right to like, we're dying here. We've got to go now. And I remember having that conversation with Roman, like, at what point do we go? Right? Like we always talk all this shit about like when shit hits the fan, we're out of here, right? We're getting the hell out of Dodge. We were looking for ways to once they extended the
quarantine,
the lockdown through like I think it was like the end of the summer or something. At that point, I was like, we're fucked. I'm teaching virtually for the rest of the year. I will not stay in that apartment with 2 kids through the summer. Like I was like, we will not survive this.
You're good. Keep going.
Okay. And we were looking at Airbnbs. Everything was crazy priced, like $3,000-$4,000 for the month. And then once you start doing the math, it's like, wait a minute, we can just invest into a home of our own and figure it out from there. And that's what we did. We actually bought our house without ever setting foot in it. We hadn't seen it in person.
Wait, no. You bought a house without ever actually seeing it.
We saw it online. We had a realtor come and do a virtual walkthrough.
What in the DoorDash homes?
Dude. And what gave us a little bit of peace of mind is that it's a new construction. So we were pretty confident that, right, it would be okay, right? Like, it'd be fine. Everything's new. We sent my sister to do like a drive through the neighborhood just to make sure that it's a nice neighborhood. And everything checked off. So we were like, fuck it. But we had looked at several houses online within a month. And then we were like, we need to close on this house as fast as possible. Like we gave them like a month.
Prices were going high too.
Oh, no. We got like, we got it right at the sweet spot. Like it was, our interest rates were the lowest and it was the sweet spot. We got a bunch of incentives. So it felt like we'd been preparing for years for this thing. And then when it was time to pull the trigger, even though we were kind of pressured into it, we were ready. But literally, good. I remember us driving. We drove down and sponsor was in the car. We had the kids in the back and we're coming over these hills. There's nothing but cows and horses and cornfields, every fucking direction you look. And Roman and I just looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, we fucked up. Like, what did we do? That's it. We were pulling up. So like, we were pulling up to sign papers. Like it was to do the walkthrough and the closing. We did both things on the same day. Like it Insanity.
Bro.
We left the kids at the house. Like we've left Jaden with the little one at the house so we can drive out and do the closing. I had stuff ordered in my sister's house and they just like backed the truck up into our garage and dumped like air mattresses, sheets, pillows. I mean, you name it. We came with the clothes. We came with clothes during that move. And this wasn't even like our official move. This was just to make it through the summer, apparently, right? Because we had decided at that point that we would go back and forth because our jobs were still in New York.
How long of a drive was that?
4 hours.
Every weekend?
No. So it became rough because I was still working in the city, but the city schools were closing, or our school was closing all the time, right? Every time there was an outbreak of COVID, you got to close down for X amount of days. Mm-hmm. So I would just come back to the house for however long, or like, it was just back. Like I had 1 week on, 1 week off for some time. So we would do that. And then he would stay here with the kids. He was working virtually. And it was hard. We spent a year like that, going just back and forth, and we'd come on long weekends and we'd go back to New York. And
that must have been exhausting.
Finally, at the end of the year, it was crazy. It was nuts. I can't even believe it. That was real life. Yeah. And then at the end of that year, when I finished the school year, literally the next day, like the moving truck pulled up and we packed all our shit and said goodbye to 138th Street.
Bro, I've been to that apartment so many goddamn times in my life too.
Oh my God. I was remembering the water balloon fight, the full-on water balloon fight that we had inside that apartment. I don't know how I didn't get murdered by my mother. Like she never knew. And if she did, she held it. And mommy holds nothing. So I don't believe she ever found that. We had a full-on, water balloon after water balloon.
There are a lot of people who ask me like, oh, because I'm really comfortable just talking to random people and strangers, and not really, typically unfathomable. Like I'm just like, oh, whatever. Hispanic old school Dominican moms trained me really hard to just get yelled at. Your mom was always scary, and I loved her.
Yeah, no, she was terrible.
DeSena's mom, scary, loved her. My mom, scary to everyone else but me. She just annoys the hell out of me. Still love her.
I loved her. Listen, your mom was such a trooper. Now, as a parent who's gone through a teenager, and Jaden keeps all his shit outside, right? Like he never really, his friends would come by on a special occasion. His friends are very respectful, right? They stayed in the living room. Dude, the way we would take over your apartment and the amount of kids that were stacked in your room at all times, at all hours. Like shout out to Sandra, because I couldn't be me. Having all these fucking kids all the time in the house couldn't be me.
I try to actually explain that to someone because I think it sounds exaggerated, but my whole life, for someone who has I obviously have a social battery, but once it's done, I'm fucking done. And I think you've known me long enough when you've seen it where it's done, we're like, everybody get the fuck out of my house. But for the most part, I've had my house would be full of friends. We would throw big parties. We would throw big get-togethers. We would do all these things, social. My mom always defaulted to, I'd rather know that he's doing it here. And I know that I'm watching everyone like a hawk, which as much as we always want to say, I don't want to be like my parent. I don't want to, I'm never going to turn out like my mom. I love that. One of the things I've always known is I get my keen, always sense of danger, sense of observation skills. I'm always paying attention to what's going on, all that. As I got older, I'm like, I got this from her. Because she had everyone in front of her at all times. She knew all the time what friend wasn't trustworthy, what friend was cool, what friend blah, 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 blah. I gave her all the shit in the world. She's like, I don't like that motherfucker. I was like, why? What the fuck's wrong with that person? I don't like him. I don't like this. Charlie was one of the people she never liked. And she was very, and I pride myself on being very direct. I've never been as direct as my mom. And more than one occasion, she told him, you ain't shit. You ain't ever going to be shit. Hopefully you get a high paying job because no woman's going to love you. There were definitely red flags. That was definitely something she said to his face. You better hope that you could pay your way into a good relationship. And I'm like, oh, Sandra was a scary motherfucker. When she was pissed and when she was getting ready to rip into you, she was a scary mofo. Yeah, bro. And I'm just like, what is happening here? Why are you yelling at my friends? And as I got older, I was like, oh, you picked up on who wasn't shit. All right.
Yeah.
I get that vibe, and I understood it. Like, I respect that. I won't tell her to her face, because then she'll get big about it. She'll be like, I told you so. No, we're not doing that. You don't know shit.
It was all the time. We were always when we didn't have anywhere else to be, we just show. And then it was like we were showing up unannounced. We weren't. It wasn't like we were calling and asking permission.
People didn't have cell phones. Like,
we were knocking on your back door. Funny enough, like you had a door that led to outside of the apartment, right in your room, and that was usually blocked off by like furniture or whatever.
I had to at some point move it all for y'all.
We were just showing up. We were just showing up all the time. There was always like 5, 6 kids in there, just eating on your bed, eating in your room. We were downloading shit on your computer. We weren't particularly quiet. Everybody was loud all the time. We were just shooting the shit all the time in your house.
There are two things. My mom loved the fact that she liked all of you. To this day, she's like, "Itia, ¿cómo está?" Like,
I love her.
She always adored you.
She's aging backwards, by the way. She's got some Benjamin Button shit going on.
It's concerning because I worry that at some point it's going to happen to me. And I'm like, look, I'm just tired. I don't need to get younger. Like, let me be the crotchety old man, please. Just trying to get there. Fuck. No, it's really morbid. She enjoyed the fact that you guys would come over, but she always liked, because she's like, I like my family, like the household being full. I like the people being in my house. I like the people going in my space.
Yeah.
And to her, it was always just, I would like to be also cognizant of what my child is doing.
It's brilliant. It's smart.
Yeah. If you make your house inviting, people gonna get comfortable and people are gonna do the shit that they wouldn't do at home, and they're gonna do it in front of you. And at some point, you're gonna be like very aware of who your kid is hanging out with, right?
Yeah.
So,
and what they're up to, what they're doing, right? Like what they're plotting and shit.
No te lo luce, coño. But she would, but it also kept her young at heart. Like, she's always been like that fashionista, like, I want to be around all the joven and all the young kids. For all those people who are listening who don't know Spanish, she wants to be around the young kids because it keeps her young. Bro, it was a really great way of knowing I'm not going to die. And when she doesn't like someone.
Still slaves.
Bro.
Perfect.
Don't tell her that. I have turned into
I tell her every chance I get. Every time I see her post a new picture, I'm like, amazing.
I do the exact flowers. Bro, all it turned into, I turned into the exact opposite. I am the most minimalist dressed dude. I got a black t-shirt, jeans, and black sneakers. Like, I'm good. And she's like, Mijo, you need to be dressed nice. I was like, the fact that you care so much makes me not want to do it. Yeah. But it was a really cool aspect of our friendship and our like childhood. Like, when you think about those city apartments, to anyone who's wondering what she's talking about, a back door to an apartment. In New York City, you had fire escapes. You see those in movies. You think that that's just standard. Not every apartment has window access, bro. So guess who didn't have window access? I had a big metal door that directly left my bedroom that was seen as an emergency escape. In retrospect, why not just use the front door? But I guess that's the quickest of the ladder, like, access. I'm not ladder, stair access.
The staircase, yeah, because it led directly to a staircase.
Which meant my friends could walk up the stairs, go, yo, and I would open the door like it's fucking Domino's. And my mom would become very aware that that was a thing, and she would start like, hey, are people coming over today so I can cook? I don't know. They just show up. I have no idea
what we'd eat at your house. She'd always feed us. You guys always had snacks.
When I was playing football in Lawrence...
Sandra doesn't get enough credit.
Bro, she does. And she gives it to herself very often, so I'm sure it's there. No, I give her credit all the time. I remember being in Lawrence, Massachusetts, playing football, and I told her, I was like, oh, some of my friends are going to this thing. She was like, are they going to have food? I was like, well, I don't know. She's like, just invite them all here. You want me to invite like 35 people to this house? She's like, yeah, I'll make food. What? And she had like this... I've never seen this giant pot of just like ground beef, ground chicken, and just like, I made food for everybody. There are like 45 people in my house eating. It's like, yo, Arthur, your mom is awesome, blah, blah, blah. I don't, and now I'm an adult. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that just on a fucking spur of the moment thing. So she deserves credit, but it also did make me into a really good party host. A really fucking good host, bro. I'm exhausted all the times, but she did it there. But the city, so you went from like that teaching system and constant paranoia, constant like this anxiety of what's next and what it looks like for your future. Like, I don't think people give it enough credit unless you live there, but it was a frightening time, right? Like,
it was so scary. It was so eerie, like walking outside during that time, like, and early on, right? Like, we were really on some Walking Dead shit, right? Like, who's going out for a run today, for a food run today, right? Like, okay, we're running out of stuff. And which supermarket am I going to go to? Okay, I'm going to go to the supermarket down there because it's less crowded. I can scan all my own shit. I don't have to interact with a cashier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was usually me, just because I'm a control freak. And I was doing these runs probably like once a week and trying to figure out what we needed. And it was the streets were empty, everything was quiet. The whole like hitting of the pans at 7 o'clock every day to shout out the nurses and the doctors and the hospitals was
Wait,
cool.
that was
Like you
happening?
see, that was happening. There was like a sense of community also, right? Like everybody was locked up. There was I mean, you saw things like that worldwide, right? Where there was such a sense of community all of a sudden, where people were valuing each other and respecting everyone's role in society.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily something that you always see in New York, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
every man for himself, and you just kind of very much like you have blinders on, you mind your business. You see someone laid out on the street and you have a train to catch. So you're gonna keep it moving. And there was such a sense of community
You have a
that
train to
came from
catch.
like, yeah, no, my train's coming. I can't stop and help you.
Mm.
That was cool to see. It was also really scary. Like it's just imagine living in a building, right? There's 20 units, and at any given time, you can go downstairs and now you're with other people and you don't know what their exposure is. And like there was just so many unknowns, especially in the early days, that you're like, wait, am I safe here?
Yeah. It it sucks. Understand what I'm about to say. I lived in a state that didn't see that. I live in a state where everyone is far away from each other. I live in a state that didn't believe all that. So when you're thinking about like these people and I remember having more than one conversation with a friend where, like I said, it was 5 years ago where the height of it really happened, right? Not trying to spend too much time there, but when I'm trying to explain to people, understanding that people are stacked like sardines on top of each other. Like there was no way to ever function in an everyday society there without seeing people and being around people within 5 feet.
Right.
I remember having explained to people when you live in Florida that driving here is normal. Out there, it's stupid.
It doesn't. I didn't learn to drive until I got here.
Which is really funny because after we take this quick commercial break, I want to talk about the fact that you learned how to drive in the last 3 years. But so when you tell people, it's like, oh, well, they can get to work perfectly. No, bro, like you don't understand. Like the subway is everything. And the other option is taxis. So you're around a stranger who's been around 80,000 people all day.
People, yep.
Who do you think would be the number one source of you getting sick?
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about how quickly, fastly is not a word. Fastly is obviously not a word. How quickly people were getting inundated and like turning into this whole, like, I have to avoid people. I have to be like, no way, shape or form be social in a city that you can't help but be social.
Yeah. It took a long time to break out of that. It took even like post pandemic, right? Like it took a long time to be okay in public because you were so hardwired in the city to like just stay home. Just don't be like we at least we were not out there doing anything, right? There were people who were still living in the city and just business as usual, but for us that's not where our beliefs lie, right? Like I know it's a very like case by case. Everybody has their own opinions, and
like I'll share what we went through here, and it like on the grand scheme of things, when you compare it to what you were going through, was almost disrespectful. There are people out here like, I'm glad the pandemic's happening because there's no traffic on the road.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna deny making the joke once or twice saying, please, Florida people, stay home because I can get to work faster with your ass at home. Please, Florida people, stay at home and just fucking DoorDash all your shit, because I was working in retail at the time. I'm like, I'd rather deal with your dasher than you. So please. Which was fucked up because I have friends and family in the city, and I had to kind of like take a step back and understand that I'm in a different circumstance. My every day, I don't have to see my neighbor unless I want to.
Right.
I can go years and not know who lives right next door to me.
Well, that was the contrast, right? Because we would have the house on the weekends, right? Or the long weekends, and we'd come to Maryland and we're walking around outside without a mask. And in the city, I wasn't walking down the street without a mask because the streets are so crowded. And at
Mm-hmm.
any given point, right? Again, we didn't know to what extent this can be contracted, right? Like we didn't know. We didn't know. So everybody's
Mm-hmm.
wearing a mask and you're outside in the middle of the street and you felt locked. You felt like you were trapped.
Yeah.
And then coming here is like, well, mask off. And now we're walking around and we're enjoying the park again, right?
But was that a big like learning curve? Were you still like the parent at the park with like a mask? I don't know these motherfuckers. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, no, if there was anyone else, it was sad. It was so sad. Again, Riley is a very active, very social kid.
mhm.
And she didn't set foot in a playground for 4 months. And that was so like such a contrast from what our usual lives are like. And when we came here, I remember on one of like those long weekend trips, she was up at 7 a.m. and at 7 a.m. we were out at the playground, right? Because it was the only time that I knew that it'd be empty. There'd be no one else there. And just
That's
even those
sad.
social interactions, right? Like another kid would show up and she would immediately like beeline right to the other
Friend,
kid.
like the stranger.
Friend, right?
Friend.
Like a kid. So that was hard. It was hard, and it was hard for me to navigate. And everyone here was a little more lax, right? Just because I think we were on high alert coming from the city, and then everyone here was kind of like, dude, chill. Like it's not that serious.
Hey guys, so that is part one of our Bourbon BS and teaching episode. If you guys are enjoying what we are doing, make sure you're liking, subscribing, sharing, and make sure to tune in next week for the completion of the Bourbon BS and teaching episode. If you want a little bit more and something a little bit more raw, uncut, and unfiltered, make sure that you're signed up for our Patreon. Even the $1 tier will get you access to early episodes, uncut and unfiltered episodes, with much less editing and a lot more real moments, as well as some bonus features and content, including whiskey minutes and some behind the brand stories, as well as you can jump in and participate on This Round's on Me feature to Patreon, where you can share your stories, videos, send those in, and I'll feature them on the show. So guys, stay safe and I'll see you next week. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Burn Termite and Pest Control. I first met Joe Byrne on Full Frontal Nerdy Show and decided to give his company a try. They have been the best pest service I've ever had. From flexible scheduling, attention to detail, fair pricing, and everything you love about a small business, I highly recommend Joe Byrne and Byrne Termite and Pest Control. It's a family-owned and operated business with over 30 years of experience in termite and pest. You can reach Byrne Termite and Pest Control at 321-297-7985. Once again, 321-297-7985. And let them know Bourbon and Bullshit sent you. Thanks, guys. See you next time.